Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, I am up really early on a Sunday morning. In fact, I think it's earlier than when I got up to go to the track day. So, once again, I'm off to a special event. And this event is the Japanese Car Day at the Petersen Automotive Museum. This is an event they hold only once a year, and they invite all of us with JDM and Japanese spec cars to come in, and we get to park in their garage, and we all just kind of get to hang out. They usually center around one car. Last time I went, it was the MKV Supra. This time it's the 400Z. For those of you that have been watching the channel for a while, you know I did a video on the 400Z back in November, I think, because I got a special viewing of it. So it's not gonna be anything new for us. I might get some extra footage if it's something new that we haven't seen. But other than that, I'm gonna walk around and see all the unique Japanese cars that people who live in the LA area have. Before we get there though, two things I wanna bring up. One, if you wanna see more automotive, particularly GTR content in the future, go and subscribe to the channel. And two, if you wanna support the channel, I do have the JD Archer shop. If you go to jdarcher.bigcartel.com, you can see a limited selection of hats, t-shirts, and hoodies I've designed that are for sale. And I did completely just swap out just about every product in there. So if you've been there before, maybe go back, check it out, see some of the new shirts I put up there. But with that out of the way, I will catch up with you once we get to the Petersen. Here we are at the show. As you can see, it was absolutely massive, lots of Nissans. We actually took up 2 full levels of the parking structure. Great car show to go to. Here's a full line of 300Zs all together next to some various other cars. And of course this, I've never seen before. This is an LS swap 300Z. I thought the engine bay would be way too small to pull it off, but this guy actually did it. I'm very impressed. This was just a really cool paint job on a 370Z. It's got that cool marble effect, and the nerd in me loved the Superman Z crossover. These are some 240Zs to 280s, very classic. I was really surprised at how many showed up. This one I saw, I'm like, well, this is a Z car, right? But the front end is rather different. I've never seen this kit on a car before. And that's not the most unique thing about this car. If you look at the back, this is a rear-wheel drive Z car. I have never seen this before. That is actually a V6 turbocharged rear engine Z. I mean, this guy had to put a lot of work and engineering into this. And of course, right next to it is the classic unmolested 240Z. Look at this. It even has the stock engine. I never see a stock engine in these. It's an L24 or an L28, just depending on the year. Stock Weber carbs. Great looking car. And of course, to finish off taking a look at the old Zs, I'm like, okay, they got the blue and the yellow, kind of like how Nissan's going around with the new 400Zs, until I turned and saw, wait, this Z is a station wagon. I didn't know that Z cars came in station wagon. This was pretty cool. And of course, here it is. I did say I was gonna record if they have a new spec, and they did have a new spec of the 400Z. It's got this gray that's just on every car nowadays, but I think it looks really good on this car. So I had to get some footage of it for you to enjoy. So there's now the yellow, the blue in this, and the interior. Very happy with the interior. The red really brings out the highlights, makes it really pop. Much better than the interiors I've seen so far. So hopefully I can get like a blue with this interior. And it's really cool, this guy explained and turned on the dash for us. You know, it's kind of nice to actually see the dash on, full digital dash.
Tire pressure, your boost, as well as your G-force. And then if you needed it, an additional upshift indicator, but you already have one at the top. So it goes from green, yellow into red, right at red line.
And this was really cool for the 240, 280. There's actually a Liberty Walk kit for those Z cars. So that was really cool. If you're a fan of Liberty Walk wide body kits, you're really gonna enjoy this car. I didn't get a chance to ask if this one was actually tracked, but it definitely looks like it's set up for track spec. I do typically more like the stock body on the Zs, but this was pretty nice, and the interior was very well set up. Of course, you gotta have, you know, looks like it's a 180SX. Very good condition. It's very nice to see the paint was clean, body was clean, it wasn't overly modified, very tastefully done. Of course, you have to have some S chassis at this, and actually this was really one of only 2. I was really surprised there was not a bigger turnout of S chassis, but there again, very clean, was not clapped out. And of course, here was a prize for me. I've actually never seen one of these in person before. This is the S15 240SX Silvia. I love this body style. If I was gonna get a 240, this is definitely the one I'd get, but it's still, I think, another year or so before they're technically legal. Of course, there was actually a surprise of how many R34s there were here. I am a sucker for a Bayside blue R34. It's my favorite color on them. This one's very well done. It was very clean. It's nice to see V-Spec too. So a little bit of my Paul Walker fanboy came out here. Of course, it's got the classic red RB26 in there. So I had to stop and take a look and fanboy a little bit, except for he mounted his seatbelts incorrectly. If he gets in a wreck, that could possibly hurt him. But other than that, very happy to see this. And this was kind of cool. I've never seen one of these in person either. This was a midnight purple R34. I've got to be honest, I'm not a fan of the color. Don't hate me, it's just not for me, but I know a lot of people like it. And then Top Rank was out there, Sean Morris was there. He brought out the Mines R34. I don't know if this is an actual Mines R34 or replica, but either way, it's very nice to see Sean. But of course, here's my favorite Skyline. I know it's sacrilege to all you R34 fans out there, but I think this is the best Skyline. This is the Hakosuka Skyline GTR. And this is the spec I like, the silver with the fender flares. I mean, look at this interior, very classic. It's like a combination of American muscle and JDM tuner. I would love to have one of these, RB swap it. I'm sorry, I just love the Haka more than the R34. You can kill me if you want. And there's actually more than one. There's actually three. The other one I couldn't quite get, but this one's a nice white one, so you can just kind of see the difference when there's a different color. I was really surprised that I was only one of two R35s to show up to this event. This is a nice CBA. The owner did a great job. He looks like he's made some tasteful modifications. He's got the wheel I want, the Advan GTs, so it was just kind of nice to have another R35 there. Here's some Datsun Roadsters. These are pretty cool. I'd love to test drive one day. And of course, there were other cars that weren't just Nissan. Here's Shahar's collection of Fast and Furious replicas and a very nice MR2 turbo version, perfect paint. Look at that engine bay. He did a great job. This is a very clean MR2. And of course, you can see behind there's an FDRX7. There were some other Supras around too, but most people have seen that. Inside the museum, right away we get into a hypercar exhibit. This is the Rimac made famous by Hammond because he crashed it on the Grand Tour. So you can see what it looks like in good condition. This was cool to see. This is the Neo. I've owned stock in Neo. I've made a lot of money on it, but I didn't quite know what I was getting. I knew it was an EV car, but this is actually a really good looking car. Of course, we have McLarens for you McLaren fans. I wasn't quite sure what that thing was on the front wheel, so if you know, post in the comment section down below, let me know. Cone Sigs, as you know, I do like Cone Sigs. This one was cool. It had kind of like this sparkly carbon fiber. You can see the light like sparkles off it, really cool. And that might just be I like saying Kona Sig, but you know, it was a good looking car for hypercar. Now this in essence to me was basically a Batmobile. If you haven't seen one of these before, this is a Dremel. As you can see, a full carbon fiber body, really long. We thought that it had a jet engine. When you look at this, I think it's a jet engine, but it's actually a quad turbocharged V12 putting out 5,000 horsepower. This is really cool. If you guys have seen Hennessy Vipers, well, Hennessy is a company like Roush, but now they're starting to make their own cars under their own label. Then of course we get out of that into some of the old classic cars. The first one was the original Benz. This is a Bugatti. I know it's not quite what you're used to seeing, very old. This is a De Tomaso. These are kind of like a Pantera. Here's a Jaguar XKE. They do have an XKSS in the Petersen, but it wasn't there. This is a Saleen with a C8 Corvette, and then finally a Lotus at the end. The cool thing about the Petersen is they have a vault where they're constantly cycling cars in and out. So each time you go, you're pretty much guaranteed to at least see something new. So I do recommend going if you are in the LA area and either an hour or two. Now this was a cool car. If you look at it, it has a ridiculously long rear end in it. The reason why is this is a hard-top convertible from the 50s. So that's not new technology. This was a car I really enjoyed. It's called a Tucker, mainly because I'm used to bullet nose cars, but this one actually has a third headlight. We have some polished Porsches here. And of course, for me, the car that stands out from all other movie cars, I'm sorry, is my favorite, the Time Machine from Back to the Future. This is actually the screen-used DeLorean from Back to the Future. The one, as you can see, there's no Mr. Fusion in the back. And pretty much what happened with this car is it was sitting in the Universal backlot, just kind of rotting away. And some fans actually approached Universal and they worked out a deal where they were allowed to restore the car using original components, found everything originally screen used, restored it to original condition. And here it is in the Petersen if you want to see the screen used DeLorean in all its glory. Now, of course, everyone recognizes this car, the famous Michael Keaton Batmobile. What you don't realize is just how ridiculously big this car is. As you can see, I can't even fit the whole car in frame. It's absolutely huge, but there again, another classic car that is unmistakable. Petersen also carries some concept cars. This is a concept Mercury from 2001, and here are some current concept cars of some new hypercars that may be hitting the streets at some point in time in the future. And there it is. I hope you enjoyed a brief snippet of JDM Day at the Petersen Automotive Museum. As you can see, it was an absolutely huge event, and I really only showed you a fraction of what actually showed up. There was an insane amount of Datsun 240 to 280Zs. There was a whole bunch of Skylines, so it was definitely worthwhile to go to. And of course, there was some Supras, RX-7s, and various other Japanese import cars on the second level, because this really was kind of more of a Nissan-centered show this time. Of course, we did get to see the new spec for the 400Z that I haven't seen before, with that new gray with the black and red interior, which I really liked. And of course, once we were in the museum, I only showed once again about a fraction of what's out there. I only showed you about the second and third levels. The first level was kind of like a James Bond exhibit where they had a whole bunch of cars and props and stuff from the James Bond movies, which I wasn't terribly interested in. But if you're a James Bond fan and you live in the SoCal area, it should be running for a little while. You should go check it out. I didn't get to show also really what, in my opinion, is the crown jewel of the Petersen, and that is the vault tour. Because I've done it before, I didn't do it this time. But if you do decide to go to the Petersen, you've never gone before, pay for the vault tour. It's totally worth it. They take you underneath the Petersen and they show you some cars that are truly rare and unique that aren't on the floor or aren't on the floor at all times. For example, they have the car that was famously shot by Elvis when he got frustrated that it wouldn't start. They have Steve McQueen's Jaguar XKSS, which you know is a very rare car. Even if it's not owned by Steve McQueen, I think there's only like 26 or so on the planet because most were lost in a warehouse fire. They have the gold-plated DeLorean that was a promo from, I think it was American Express. I'm not 100% sure on that one. And they also have more concept cars. For example, they actually have the concept car for the FD RX-7 down there. So you can see like what it was they imagined it looked like when they were only sculpting out of the clay versus what they actually put on the road. So even if you can't make it down to the vault though, definitely check out the Petersen because they do cycle some of those cars up onto the main floor. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go hit that thumbs up button to let me know. It does help the channel out a lot. If you'd like to see more automotive, particularly GTR content in the future, go and subscribe to the channel. You can also follow me on all forms of social media, which include Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, and I'll leave links to all those in the description down below. If you have any questions or you feel there's anything I'm missing in this video, go and post in the comment section. I will respond to you. I thank you all for watching, and until next time, forget everything else, focus on the finish line.